Or wipes, baby wipes.
Oh, but wipes. Yeah, I like it.
Wipes.
You know, a few months from now, we will be a dad pod. It's just going to be girl.
Pod.
Yeah, fucking girl dad podcast. This is what this podcast is going to be.
I like it.
You're welcome.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, this is the podcast for you. I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons. Alongside me is my co-host, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And each week we take a look back in time, decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you like to sell the movies we have covered, will cover, want to choose one for yourself, please visit shatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie takes to get off your respective butts. Thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share it with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV. We review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all our information and past episodes at shatpod.com/TV. And finally, if you would like to hang out with us live, you can follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatpod.com/Twitch, and our YouTube channel, where we play video games, host watch parties, and edit this podcast live. And if you're interested in playing with us, lots of the Shat community is now playing Helldivers 2. We're also playing Division 2. There is a Discord, which I have now fixed. So sorry to everybody who was trying to get on the Discord. Discord was actually just an expired link, but we now have an evergreen link, which we'll be putting on the site. So just go to shatpod.com and you can find our Discord link there, and it'll be accurate. You can join us. We had a few people join this week. We're playing. We've got a group on Steam, the Shat Gamers. You can join us there. And of course, always join us on Twitch, hang out, play along. All that being said, Big D, what movie are we reviewing today?
So, Jane, each week when we review a movie, they can usually fall into, let's say, 4 or 5 different categories. You normally have like the cult classic. You got the blockbuster. You got the flop. And then there's the individual. There were Roger movies. There were Ash movies. There were Cary Gross movies. There's Big D movies. Tonight is definitely a Gene Lyons movie. I was watching this and I could see the TV screen lighting up your happy face, and you were smiling. You were probably sitting there with a nice glass of some of your favorite IPA, because Rachel C. decided to commission a movie that's right up your alley. And it was the 1986 American comedy horror, Haunted Honeymoon.
When I told Sarah that the movie for the week was Haunted Honeymoon, she said, is this the kind of movie where there'll be a ghost and you can see the strings visibly on screen? And she was fucking right. Yes, it was that kind of movie. And it was perfect, Rachel. Rachel wrote in and said, thank you for accepting my Haunted Honeymoon commission. Holy cats, is this movie insane. I watched it again recently in preparation for your review, and I'll be a werewolf's uncle if it wasn't even more fucked up than I remembered. Make sure to pay attention to the clues in the very beginning. Just fucking with you. None of it makes any sense. I feel genuinely bad that poor Gene Lyons has to write a synopsis. I couldn't find it streaming anywhere, so apologies if you had to buy the DVD like me. Though I still say this train wreck is a keeper, especially if you're just a little, but not too much, stoned. I rewound the bonkers but kind of delightful song and dance sequence between Gilda Radner and DeLuise 3 times. A couple highlights. A way pre-Game of Thrones Jonathan Pryce is entertaining. The spooky house is great. And Gilda Radner is luminous. Also, bonus tip, next time you and your ladies are having an argument, try stuttering all of your W's like Larry in the movie. See if that doesn't break the tension. Worked for my husband. Anyway, you know how much I adore and appreciate you guys, and I can't wait for you to shat all over Haunted Honeymoon like the army of birds that moved into the tree above my patio, and apparently all have irritable bowel syndrome. Yours truly, in laughter and sin, Rachel C. from Milwaukee.
So, Jane, much like walking into a haunted house, when you can sense there's something supernatural afoot, I'm sensing danger. The last film we did similar to this, Clue, I walked into it sour, unhappy, in the wrong mindset, and I haven't lived it down this many years later.
I wish I had known prior to watching Haunted Honeymoon that I was supposed to do it stoned, because I think I would have had a different experience. In fact, I'd probably do this one on mushrooms. I think this is a mushroom rewatch. So as a bonus to you, Rachel, I will watch this movie again sometime this summer on mushrooms and give you an update on what I think. Haunted Honeymoon is a 1986 horror comedy starring Gene Wilder, Gilda Radner, Dom DeLuise, and Jonathan Pryce. Gene Wilder also served as writer and director. This box office flop was distributed by Orion Pictures through a deal with HBO, grossing just short of its $9 million budget and triggering negative reviews from critics. The film earned Dom DeLuise the Razzie Award for Worst Supporting Actress and was the last feature film appearance for Gilda Radner prior to her diagnosis and death from ovarian cancer. It also was the last directorial role for Gene Wilder. So, Big D, as I said, Haunted Honeymoon, it was a box office disaster. What I can't understand is how it wasn't on TV when I was a kid. Because as we both know, some of those movies that did really poorly, I'm guessing they were trying to recoup their money. They would put them on TV all the time on random channels late at night or like mid-afternoon on a Sunday. This totally fits the mold of other comedies that regularly played when there were only like 6 channels to watch, right? And you had to go up to the TV screen and flick from one to the other. Even today, incredibly hard to find. As Rachel mentioned, there's no streaming service that offers Haunted Honeymoon. The DVD on eBay is like $13, I think, because it is so rare. And a new copy goes for about $60 or $70.
$60 or $70. Well, we were lucky, Gene. There's one fan out there somewhere in the world who took the Orion VHS copy, ripped it with tracking and all, and put it up on the, what's it called? Something archives?
Internet Archive. Yeah, it's perfect.
It's flawed. It flickers. The sound pops. It gave the genuine VHS experience, and I think it fit the movie. It was perfect. This version on mushrooms or hygiene would be wonderful. And Gene Wilder, I fell for him the last time we did one of his films. We did Blazing Saddles. Amazing. And besides Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, other than that, growing up, all I knew about Gene Wilder was it seemed like there was about 10 or 12 films that him and Richard Pryor did together. They'd be an oddball team. They'd be put into some situation. Maybe one was blind, one was deaf. They were like cellmates in prison trying to break out and stir crazy or see no evil, hear no evil, which I mentioned. Other than that, I really never saw any of his films. You know, Young Frankenstein, still not seen. So when this came up, I really didn't know what to expect. And I don't think I was the intended audience back when it came out or today. So this will be an interesting one for me.
You know that content in Facebook that's like really low quality and it's definitely trying to appeal to men of our age where it's like, they can't make comedies like this anymore. And it'll be a clip from a movie. There was one the other day that was a clip from See No Evil, Hear No Evil. And it's Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder yelling at each other. For people who haven't seen the movie, one of them's blind, the other one's deaf. And they're like a duo, right? And he's like, what are you telling me? What are you, blind, motherfucker? And he's like, yeah, that's what I said. What are you, deaf? Yeah. And I'm like, that's the joke for 2 fucking hours? Again, I haven't seen the movie in a while, but maybe there's a reason they don't make comedies like they used to.
Well, I'm going to guess Gene Wilder, was he the one who was yelling, who was screaming a lot in that clip?
Richard Pryor screams just as much.
Okay.
I mean, Pryor is a prolific yeller as well. So you put the two of them together and
that's what you get.
You might wish you were deaf. Let's hit the trailer.
It should have been the happiest moment of their lives, the night they came home to be married at the house of Great Aunt Kate. But it turned into a haunted honeymoon.
I know that one of you is a werewolf. Hairy, all over.
Someone or something is trying to scare them to death.
Now, if anything frightens you, anything at all, you just holler. boy, here we go again.
I just found Cousin Francis in my bed.
Was he wearing a dress?
Yes, he was.
Just ask him to leave, sir. Tell him you have a headache. Whatever happens,
Who knows if any of us shall ever see the morning?
they have to be ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready! 1, 2.
Spread your loving arms, clear out the space. Beat it while you're still healthy. You do the eagle rock with style and grace.
Yes, sir. It's the biggest thrill of my life.
You put your left foot out
You'd think this would frighten me.
and bring it back.
It's not what you think.
And that's what we call on the jack.
Well, it's partly what you think, but wait. Oh, wait.
Starring Gene
Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Wilder, Gilda Radner,
Larry. Oh, this thing's pinching my butt.
and Dom DeLuise in his most demanding role.
Oh, it's so complicated.
Larry Abbot and Vickie Pearle are performers on radio's Manhattan Mystery Theater who decide to get married. Larry has been plagued with on-air panic attacks and speech impediments since proposing marriage, and Vickie thinks it's just pre-wedding jitters. But his affliction could get both of them fired.
So the movie opens up. We get Larry and Vickie, and they're performing their spooky radio drama. And honestly, it hit me immediately with a wave of nostalgia. My dad, he used to have a tape player. And when we would drive around, he had recordings that I don't know if he bought them or he recorded himself of these old radio mystery shows. And we would take the trip from Mamaroneck up to Mount Tremper. And it was like, Dad, you got another tape? You got another tape? They were great. They were entertaining. You didn't have to have a screen in the car. Everybody could sit and listen to the story from the back seat. And it made me feel like today, ancient, saying that we listened to these old broadcasts on the tape player. But there's something special about it. When you'd use your imagination, you'd fill in the scenes. It was funny to throw back the set and the tone of Haunted Honeymoon to something that felt very quaint and charming to me. And regardless of the movie, how it goes, this opened up and I was like a kid again.
This is why I love podcasts. I don't want to know what anybody looks like. And I frankly cannot sit there and watch like three dudes on screen sitting on couches talking to each other. Lots of people do that, particularly on YouTube. People will do that. They'll just watch 3 hours of dudes. I don't want that. I want to be able to drive my car or do whatever else I'm doing and just listen. And you were reminded of those tapes with your dad. Did you ever listen to Coast with Art Bell?
No.
Okay, so when I was working newspapers back in the day, I would get out of work around midnight. I was living at first in Northern California, in Marysville. And then when I moved to Ohio, I was living in Lima. And there was nothing to do and dark skies, not a lot of street lights. And I'd be driving country roads to get home. And you're alone in your car. It's the witching hour. And Coast to Coast with Art Bell and later George Norrie, all they talked about was like hauntings and UFOs. And they would have like experts on, to talk about this stuff. And I would listen to that my whole drive and it was spooky as shit. And I loved it. I recently found out they're still doing the show. It's still on Coast to Coast AM with now George Norrie. And there's even a podcast. So I was super excited to find that out. But man, story about UFO abductions or how like time travel is possible. And it's the craziest shit. And it's on, they're still doing it like going strong on the radio, old school. I think it's fantastic.
But are they actively questioning the guests or do they just go along with it?
I'm so glad you asked that because Art Bell, the OG guy, right? He started the show in like 88 and he would ask questions to try to cut through the bullshit. George Norrie took over the show in like 2003 and he just goes along with it. Like he's not super critical. Different formats, different approaches. I don't think the two guys liked each other, honestly. So yeah, it's not what it used to be. But the old episodes, you can still find them with Art Bell and they're fascinating. A lot of guys that always like claim to be ex-military too, but there's like no record of it. And they're like, oh, well, the government wiped my record, stuff like that. It's really great. Big D, you mentioned that opening though, when they're in the studio and we're getting a behind the scenes look at the radio program. We got Gene Wilder, we got Gilda Radner. There's an announcer, there's an orchestra, sound effects guy. Again, it's a nostalgic film. And Gene Wilder is acting weird about his tie. We're learning about how you can tell if somebody is a werewolf. And I'm super entertained. I felt like I could watch this entire movie for 2 hours in this room. The execution is tight. These stars, they are shining. There was no need to give me anything else.
Dude, but there's so much going on. The sponsors are there, and the sponsors are worried about his performance, and there's been questions, and how's he doing? It's a whole lot going on for a movie that basically at times, Haunted Honeymoon, it barely feels like a movie. There's no real momentum. There's no stakes. There's no coherent mystery. It's just a series of loosely connected set pieces. Okay, they host a radio show or they're the radio talent. They're going to get married. He has some family history. He's nervous. Then they're going to go to the family to try to get over them and find some closure. It feels like sketch comedy. It's a lot of leftover parts of like an SNL episode. Even the big reveal at the end, it's like an afterthought. The script seems to have been forgotten, and I'm not surprised that this was the last film that Gene Wilder directed, because it didn't seem like he had a good grasp on what was important to make a good movie.
I felt like the whole point, though, was that it was supposed to feel like one of those radio dramas, which are often disjointed. And there is a lot going on. Like, wasn't that the whole point?
Then it's a success, Gene. If it's supposed to be chaotic and mysterious, it's a success. It's a resounding success.
Yeah, maybe whoever thought this movie up, well, Gene Wilder probably, was like, I know, we're going to make a movie that feels like a radio show. And they're like, okay.
It's the wrong format, Gene. We should try to review this as an audio file only. Thoughts?
Well, then you wouldn't know if you're in the house or in the studio.
Does it matter?
On mushrooms, probably.
I think we need to test that. We need to test that theory.
Larry's uncle, Dr. Paul Abbott, decides that Larry needs to be cured. He proposes to treat Larry with a form of shock therapy to scare him to death, much in the same way someone might try to startle someone out of hiccups.
So I already mentioned Gene Wilder. When I was a kid, he was Willy Wonka. You know, you knew who he was. Other than that, I got a little complaint for his performances. In small doses, like Blazing Saddles, where he plays a more subdued character, I can tolerate him. I think he excels. But when you put him as one of the lead characters here, his performance is basically nonstop screaming, ah, ooh, ah, ooh, ah. It's him flailing, him hooting, him hollering, him screaming. He reacts to everything with an intensity of someone being electrocuted. Whether it's a lightning strike, there's a creepy relative, there's a ghost rappelling down the wall next to him. He yells loudly, and the script, it might be good, it might be funny, but he's like one note. He goes to 1,000 miles an hour with every delivery. There's no variation in tone. It was like Willy Wonka going down that tunnel to the everlasting gobstop room when he's, and the lightning's getting stronger. And then he keeps going. And I'm like, man, I want the Gene Wilder from Blazing Saddles. Be subdued, be subtle with moments of manic screaming.
What's Larry's profession?
He's a radio broadcaster. He's a character actor.
Interesting. Did you miss the whole part where his mom was killed by a lightning strike so traumatizing that his own family is trying to scare him to death as a cure? And he is an actor on the radio. How do you think an actor on the radio would react to all these things happening?
Well, not like this. What do you think when he's reading his ads? He's screaming anytime he's startled. When the wind machine kicks up or the lightning sound effect, he's like a dog, Gene. It's like when we record sometimes and June is howling at the moon. That's what Larry is.
I'm okay with that. But moving on from Gene Wilder, though, I might have a little crush on Paul L. Smith. So I didn't know this guy existed until we watched Popeye. He is Bluto in Popeye. In this movie, again, just speaking to also how ridiculous Haunted Honeymoon is supposed to be. Anytime you mention a doctor by their full ass name, that is a very theatrical cue that it's supposed to be funny. Dr. Paul Abbott in Haunted Honeymoon. If you've ever wondered if a big fat man could be kind of hot by sheer presence, listeners, I offer you Paul L. Smith and maybe John Rhys Davies, right? Paul L. Smith has this delivery and this stare and this beard that just made me want to crawl up on his chest and nuzzle. And I really enjoyed, for some strange reason, that they didn't give him an English accent. An American doctor in a murder mystery was very nice for a change.
If The Sopranos was made in the 80s, this is Tony Soprano. This is a big, scary dude. He was in Dune. He was the Beast. But Gene, you've missed his biggest role. This is a film that traumatized me as a kid. I should not have seen it. It was on HBO. And it's one of the reasons I've never gone to prison in Turkey. It's a story of an American kid who goes to Turkey. I think he's buying heroin or some kind of hash.
It's like hashish, yeah.
He smuggles it onto the plane. He gets caught. So the police come and they say, hey, listen, we want you to turn in the dealer. And I vividly remember this movie. I haven't seen this in probably 40 years, but as a kid, it fucked me up. So he's got a choice. Do I become an informant for the police? So he goes and does the deal, tries to run away. And the police said, fine, now we're going to fuck you. They put him in a Turkish prison. It's a nightmare. It's miserable. But the main prison guard is Paul L. Smith. And the final scene, Gene, Paul L. Smith is leading this poor, now withered American who's been in jail for however many years into this large room to rape him. So he pulls him into the room. The guard, this giant towering man, starts pulling down his pants to rape him. He gets a last moment of strength. This little frail American prisoner pushes him up against the wall, and the hook for the coats goes through the back of his head.
Oh.
Spoiler alert, he puts on his uniform, which looks comically large on his now emaciated body. He sneaks out to freedom. And that told me, don't go to jail in Turkey. And number two, watch out for hooks that are head high.
Yeah, I guess I somehow managed to miss that 1978 prison drama as a child.
Well, I think inherently you knew the Turkish prisons were bad. As an American kid, I didn't know that.
Well, as a Kurd, I just try to avoid the Turks at all costs.
See? Paid off.
Well, Larry chooses a castle-like mansion in which he grew up as a site for his wedding. Vickie gets to meet Larry's eccentric family, great aunt Kate, who plans to leave all her money to Larry, his uncle, Francis, and Larry's cousins, Charles, Nora, Susan, and the cross-dressing Francis Jr. Also present are the butler Pfister and his wife Rachel, the maid, Larry's old girlfriend Sylvia, who is now dating Charles, and Susan's magician husband, Montego the Magnificent. So, Big D, in the 9 years we've been doing this podcast, I have learned a lot of things. Thank you, listeners. Among the most significant are Arnold Schwarzenegger is a very smart guy who knew exactly what he was doing and did it perfectly. And Dom DeLuise was way funnier than my generation realized. Most of us, I'm 44 years old, we knew him from appearances on Hollywood Squares when he wasn't really super relevant as an actor, and he kind of did the same gag. He was just very over the top. But Shat the Movies has introduced me to the Dom DeLuise of Cannonball Run and of Haunted Honeymoon. Dom DeLuise, to me, is always the most hilarious guy in the room, and Aunt Kate might be some of his best work. He's sliding down banisters. He's gesturing with those like snarf claws, just jumping from the dramatic to the festive. There is a line where he says, "My brother John, from who you are all descended, was bitten on the back of his neck by something half animal, half human. From that moment on, he was hairy all over. One of you is preying upon the fears of this old woman, and whoever you are, may God strike you dead. Now let's have coffee and dessert in the music room." It's so fucking out there, and he delivers it with such sincerity, but it's distinctly Dom DeLuise. You cannot avoid laughing with this guy.
No, because he never cracks.
No.
He is 100% invested in the delivery of these lines. And I have to give credit where credit's due. Dom DeLuise, you mentioned that hairy one. No, the one that got a laugh out of me, the first like legitimate laugh, is the line, "Electricity is the work of the devil. I don't trust it at all. This is God's way of paying me back for putting it in." It's a moment that he delivers. It is so ridiculous, so absurd. And I laughed out loud because the setup is brilliant and Dom DeLuise never cracks a smile, complete conviction. It reminds me of how good he can be. even though the script might not be that funny, he delivers it in a way I laughed.
You didn't laugh when he said he saw a werewolf in the garden? Like just at dinner?
I like where one of the guests, I think it's Sylvia, says something and she's like, I'm speaking to my family. Just to blow her out, which is funny. And those are good. And some of the writing is funny, and I'm trying not to be the old curmudgeon who hated Clue. I'm trying to broaden my horizon. But when you have some scenes that just go on and on and on as if they've run out of material, you get Gilda Radner, who is funny. She's talking to herself and she's making a shadow puppet on the wall. I'm like, okay, where is this going? And she's making kissing sounds and does a Donald Duck impersonation on the wall. She's not joking. She's having a one-sided conversation with a cartoon duck shadow. She's flirting and, oh, do you want to kiss me? And doing the voice. There's no emotional arc. It doesn't go anywhere. And it keeps going on for a little too long. I don't think it was clever. It's just filler. I could hear Gene Wilder being like, okay, this is my first, this might be my last film. Gilda, keep going with it, Gilda. Keep going with it. We gotta figure out what's next. Did you find this really like charming and funny, or did you feel like it was kind of just thrown together?
Question for you. Counter question, right? Mm-hmm. What is Vickie's occupation?
Shut the fuck up. But she's doing it alone.
That's what they do.
What,
that is what they
in their
do.
Room?
Yeah.
They would do like shadow puppets. The last time I did shadow puppets, Emma was 5. And her and I were doing dinosaurs on the ceiling.
Were you ever into Weird Girls? Like dating wise? You're into Weird Girls? You like Weird Girls?
In high school, I was into any girl.
Yeah. But did you like the weird ones in particular?
I would have liked any of them, but yes, Weird Girls would be funny.
I'm going to give you a series of movie characters. You like to play the games with me. I'm going to flip the tables and play a game with you.
I'm ready.
I'm going to give you a movie character.
Yeah.
And you tell me if you would like be very likely to date her or like unlikely to date her, or maybe just kind of you don't care.
Date or hook up with? We have to date.
Like date them. Like you'd be interested in like spending time with them non-sexually.
Oh, okay. I got
in a relationship. Okay,
I'm ready. All
right. We'll start off with everybody's favorite, right? Holly Golightly from Breakfast at Tiffany's. Audrey Hepburn.
I really haven't seen it, so I couldn't tell you other than the way she looked. She didn't seem like a strange girl.
Oh, she's very strange. But let's go with the one we're both familiar with, Clementine from Eternal Sunshine.
I would date her for a short period of time because she seems cool and eccentric. But then when she turns out to be really damaged, it would be a short courtship. But I would say yes.
What about Marla from Fight Club?
1,000% yes.
Oh.
She is the crazy girl who I would love. She's dangerous. She's damaged. She goes to hang out at like what was it? Alcoholics Anonymous? Or where was she hanging out? Yes. Yeah. She would be my crazy type.
Have you seen Amélie, the French film Amélie?
I've not.
Audrey Tattoo. Okay, let's skip that one.
No.
How about Vivian from Pretty Woman? Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman.
No, I didn't like her. No.
Okay, what about Lois Lane in Superman? And Superman 2.
No, she's mean. She's fucking mean. Okay. She's terrible. She's mean.
Okay. Have you seen Pirates of the Caribbean?
Yes, of course.
What about Elizabeth Swann from Pirates?
Yeah, she's super hot. Yes.
Super hot. Would you date her, though?
Yes, of course. It's like on that, the fuck around and find out scale.
Yeah.
You can be crazy and hot, but it doesn't work the other way. You accept crazy when they're hot. You can't be normal and crazy, or you can't be not
ugly
hot
and crazy.
Yeah. That's it.
But also, if you're ugly and sane, you're also still no good to us.
No, if they're nice.
So So you're a mixed bag there because Clementine, Marla, they are what we'd call a manic, the manic pixie dream girl, whereas Vivian and Lois, that's a grounded female character that is conventionally attractive.
I want to give you one characteristic I just realized that's important to me.
Yeah.
Ride or die. Marla is ride or die.
Sure.
She's going down in the building, crazy as fucking hell, but she's still by his side.
Yeah.
That's ride or
Vickie's putting up with a lot of shit, even though she talks to duck hands. She's willing to go fly around on a rope for Larry just to cure him of his stutter because it's a werewolf. But Big D, Gilda Radner, amazing. And confession time, I cried while I was watching this movie. which I did not expect to do watching Haunted Honeymoon. But Gilda Radner was my mom's favorite comedian, to the point where my mom would call me into the room. I could distinctly remember her saying, she called her Rosanna, but I knew who she was talking about, that she was on the screen. And I didn't really get it back then when I was a kid. I mean, I knew my mom was laughing at it, but I didn't get what's so special about this lady. But seeing someone so full of life in 1986, just dancing and laughing and lighting things up, and knowing that this woman would be gone just 3 years after making this film, it was very hard to process. I've never experienced in my own life like losing somebody to cancer. I mean, my brother, but I was not old enough to remember. And just understanding that a person can look outwardly healthy and vibrant, and then they can just deteriorate and pass away. That hurt. And then watching her chemistry with Gene Wilder, you can see they're in real love. Like those two, when they're together on screen, are stronger than they are apart. And it's heartbreaking. And it made me really want to go back and watch the rest of the films they did together, like in a way, like reversing that tragedy. I know you mentioned the films of Gene Wilder's that you're familiar with. Same here. I don't think I've seen any of the ones that they're together in, and there are quite a few, and that might be worthwhile.
But I mean, she had chemistry with everybody, and everyone loved her. When you look back on her life and her death, nobody had a bad thing to say about her. Equally talented. She seemed to be compassionate. Saturday Night Live, the whole cast of all alphas, people who wanted to be the big dog, they all let her go because she was the star. She was universally loved.
That's such a good point, Big D, because we talk about, like these famous feuds, right? Like Bill Murray and Harold Ramis, right? Like these comedians who could not get along with each other, who would not talk to each other for decades. Seriously, across the board. Bill Murray absolutely adored her. Martin Short, they dated, still very fond of her, even after a split. Like this was a person who was universally loved and an incredible talent. Paul begins his treatment of Larry and lets others in on the plan. Unfortunately for all of them, something more sinister and unexpected is lurking at the Abbott estate's mansion. The pre-wedding party becomes a real-life version of Larry's and Vickie's radio murder mysteries, werewolves and all. I'm clearly biased when it comes to the style of comedy that's being used in this movie. It's definitely, as Rachel said, my style of comedy, right? I love that vaudevillian treatment. It's so old school. With Gene Wilder sitting on Brian Pringle's legs while cops ask him questions and Gene Wilder's pretending the legs are his own. It's a basic gag. It could go back. It could be 200 years old for all we know. Or the whole string of jokes around a widower, then what? It's just stuff that you don't see anymore. And I can't tell if screen actors just don't train in this way, like vaudeville is a lost art, or have audience tastes shifted, or maybe both, right? And Big D, you mentioned Clue earlier in the podcast. Clue is the closest comparison I could think of that has this style of comedy, other than like Netflix's Series of Unfortunate Events, which I haven't seen. Have you seen that one?
I have not. But you question whether or not this was a type of comedy that had passed. There was a time in the U.S. where horse racing and boxing were the biggest draw in sports.
I'm into that.
It was the entertainment. It's what they said, the cinema, Gene. I think that this vaudevillian shit, this is the end of the era. It doesn't work. It doesn't exist anymore. And I question whether it was funny even back then. And for me, I don't like the spooky mansion. Let's solve a mystery. Here's the setup. And Haunted Honeymoon, it does what a lot of other movies do, and it just doesn't do it as well. And then I get another thing, Gene, I hate. I don't like dance numbers out of the blue when it's not a musical. I didn't need Ballin' the Jack, even though Gilda Radner, when she does that knee thing and she's moving, she looks great. And admittedly, Gene, it's a lively ragtime number. This song from 1913. So no, maybe it wasn't meant for 1986 audiences. And that's I was questioning it. Who was this for? It didn't work, and maybe that's why it failed. Maybe it just was the vaudevillian comedies, Gene, in 86. It wasn't a failure of execution, but it was the material, and it just go back to things that just seemed so old and campy. And they kept just riding it into the ground. Gene Wilder goes in the basement and he knocks out the butler and he ends up on top of him and they're screaming and the police come down into the basement And they said, hey, you over there, take a seat. And he's a little surprised by, what do you mean take a seat? Because it looks like the butler's legs, like he's a marionette or a puppet, or he's a ventriloquist act. So the legs are out. He's now talking to the police, and the legs are moving up and down, and he keeps pushing them down. He's trying to convince the police. He's just sitting there practicing, Gene. Maybe that's why he's screaming more. But when you think it's going to end, it doesn't. It goes on for about 4 or 5 excruciating minutes. Gene, did you feel like they were milking these gags to death? Or did you think, oh, this is so quaint. I love this. I'm going to sit here and watch it all night.
My friend, it was the latter, old chap. I think you're focusing on the big gag and you're missing the details. Like when these scenes last longer, you start to really pick up all the little things. And it's the little things that they say and do that make it funny. The tension of getting caught, the reactions of the cops. Like there's just this awkward moment between Gene Wilder and everybody else. The scratching of the leg, like when it pops up. I think that this is the sort of thing that I adore in film and on stage. And then I got to thinking, I'm like, maybe Big D's not a big connoisseur of the stage. And so it's just, it's not, your palate's not dialed into that, right? And I'm not saying that as a judgment. I'm just saying, like, if you see more theater and are exposed to more theater, then this kind of makes sense. You get what's going on here. But if it's like, maybe it doesn't make great sense in film, which again, you pointed out earlier, a lot of this just may not translate well to a flat screen, particularly when we're watching it off a VHS tape that's then been posted to the internet.
No joke. And that added an extra layer, Gene. They're in the basement. This is a VHS rip with tracking issues. I felt like we were watching Blood In and Blood Out, where I couldn't tell. I'm like, holy shit, is that the butler? Is that Fister? Who is that in a mask? Who just got killed? Who's got a knife? It added a layer of mystery that I may have been better off listening to this just as a radio telecast.
I wonder if some of the effects, like you would be able to tell in a high definition version, like what looked like a real werewolf or like a real monster and what looked clearly like a dude in a suit. Because I was confused. I'm like, and I still don't quite know, like, was there an actual werewolf out there? And also, why were there 2 Francises? And like, what the hell was going on? Like, I still don't understand the movie by any means.
No, that makes 2 of us.
Okay. Well, on that note, Rachel, now's the time in the podcast to give our Shat scores for Haunted Honeymoon. The Shat scores are our way of telling you how many wipes this movie would take to get off your respective butts. 0 wipes is the perfect movie. It's being bathed, given warm milk and cookies, and being tucked into bed. And 5 wipes is an absolute disaster of a film. It's finding your dead cousin in your bed. Big D, we'll start with you. What is your wipe score for Haunted Honeymoon?
Shit, I feel bad now. Because I can see the joy in your eyes, and I could see the audience that this was made for. And I feel terrible because I'm feeling like this is going to be Clue again. This is going to come out and people are going to be out. There's going to be the Haunted Honeymoon lovers, the aficionados out there who are going to come after me.
But I think to be fair, okay, let's say that there's a sports movie that's made, and this is going to sound really weird, right? But it's a sports movie that's not only made about a sport, but it's delivered with the pace and lingo of the sport itself, right? So, like, let's say they made they made a movie about baseball, and it went on way longer than a movie should go. And also, you were expected during that movie to get up and go to the bathroom and get yourself a hot dog and a beer. Otherwise, you wouldn't really enjoy the movie. It was literally made that way. For a baseball fan, that might be very interesting, right? It's novel.
You're making me hate the movie more because I'm thinking about like Damn Yankee or the musicals, like where Babe Ruth would be singing and the Yankees. No, I'm hating this even more, Gene. So you just hurt this. So I did 2 parts, right? I started off by looking. I wanted to know why the film flopped. So before I get to my Shat score, I had to see why. What did everyone else think? What did the critics think? This is a meta score of 29 out of 100.
Oof.
And generally, the reviews are unfavorable. Rotten Tomato, it's an 18% fresh.
Wow.
Okay. In Metacritic, it's a 3.6 out of 10. Box office, yes, disappointed. Grossed approximately $8 million against a $9 million budget. That is a miracle And I'll give that to Dom DeLuise and Gilda Radner. Dom DeLuise, who is normally adored, he got a Razzie, Gene, for Best Supporting Actress.
I think that's supposed to be funny.
It is. Of course it is. But I'm saying he wasn't the worst thing in this film.
No.
By far. And even the critics thought that the chemistry between Gilda Radner and Wilder was a little bit off. Maybe it was because she was sick and she was fighting through it. I don't know. But the overall assessment was it was a pretty bad film. For me, what swings it, I think it's a waste of talent. Haunted Honeymoon makes it feel like community theater without a director. The chemistry was a bit off. The jokes were bad. It was ill-timed. 86 was maybe a little bit too late to make this film. I think it's 4.75 wipes. It was pretty bad. Maybe it's a 4-wipe film on an HD or 4K rip where I can see more of what's going on. But it was pretty bad.
Rachel, before I deliver my score, I want you to know that I am glad I watched this movie. I think it gave me some very important time with Gilda Radner. I think it gave me an opportunity to see Gene Wilder do something slightly different. And I really loved how clever it was. Dom DeLuise was absolutely amazing. But as a film, mercifully short film, but a film nonetheless, it's not a great movie. I laughed out loud at least once in every scene, which makes it a reasonable comedy. Twice if Dom DeLuise was involved in that scene. But overall, I have to say, we have now watched over 400 movies, and it is hard to say, in all honesty, that this is an average film. It is a below average film. A below average film with some very funny components, but I'm going to have to go 3.5 wipes. And with my 3.5 wipes and Big D's 4 3/4 wipes, that gives us an average wipe score of 4.125 wipes for Haunted Honeymoon.
So, Gene, with a score of 4.125 wipes, that ties this now with one film in the 361 spot. Who's Harry Crumb?
Perfect.
This film is like it. This is better than King Ralph and Drop Dead Fred, which I don't necessarily agree with, and slightly worse than My Science Project, Tron, and Backdraft. But Harry Crumb, this is perfect.
Yep, it's John Candy in an Indian costume.
Riding a 400-pound man riding a thoroughbred.
Yep. That's this movie. It is.
Mm-hmm.
Well done, us.
Perfect.
Rachel, I will hold true to my word, though, and this summer, we'll watch this movie on drugs.
I would come out for that.
And let me know what I think.
I would come out for that, and we could do an immediate recording after the film. Or we could do a mystery theater version of it.
I don't think you want me high and trying to comment on a film at the same time. I tried that with Friday. It didn't work too well.
Okay.
Well, Rachel, thank you so much for the commission. We do have some email and voicemail to get to. And our first email this week comes from listener James, who says, "Greetings, Gene and Big D. I am terrible at social media, but just saw there will be a little Gene Lyons." Oh, shit. Guys, by the way, I forgot to mention that. We're having a baby, hopefully, coming this September. So words out. Thanks, James. I will do my best to tune in for the diaper party, but I would be remiss if I didn't get to send Gene a congratulatory drink. As a former Chicagoan, I can only think of one thing: Jepson's Malort. I have Venmoed you guys $50 to cover the bottle and shipping. I figured that was easier than giving a stranger your address. Love the Street Fighter episode. Glad it was a hit. And that comes from James.
Well, I don't think it's actually a little Gene Lyons. I think it's a little Sarah Lyons.
That's true. That is true. Yes. She will hopefully be much more like her mother than she is like me. But yeah, for those who are not in the know, we will be having a diaper party live stream at 5 p.m. Eastern on June 8th. So if you'd like to join us and chip in for diapers, Big D, I just found out that a baby goes through about 320 diapers in the first month.
Shit. I don't.
Shit is right.
It's kind of, I've blocked that out. But what made me really sad, Gene, was that, you know how you're talking about, we get those old man social media posts now.
Yeah.
I get the old father posts.
Oh no.
Where it's like the father sending the girl to college, or the one that's like, give your kid a hug because you don't know when it's the last time. You know, one of those things.
Yeah.
I don't remember what was the last time I changed her diaper. It just stopped happening. once she was potty trained. Like all those moments that seem like they'll never end. Or that's why now, even though Emma she's giant and we go to like Disney, I put her on my shoulders, even though it's probably compressing a disc and causing me excruciating pain down my legs, because I don't know when it will be the last time. And you're lucky, Gene. I think you're going to be a great, great dad.
I appreciate that. Just think someday she'll be carrying you on her shoulders. You know?
I don't know about that.
Circle of life.
I ask her one day if she'll be changing our diapers, and she says no. So I think she'll leave us, which is probably the smart move.
James, I don't know if I'll be able to pick up a fresh bottle of Malort before the diaper party, but I do have a bottle of Malort at my house right now, and I will definitely save a shot and do it for you. If you can't join us on the live stream, I'll definitely put it up on YouTube so you can take a peek. But yeah, if you guys would like to join us, we would love any contributions for diapers. I keep telling people who are trying to buy us like more changing tables and another crib and all this other stuff. Like we're pretty set for stuff, but all I'm being told is just you can never have too many diapers. So diapers, please. Diapers, please. And if you can't make it to the live stream, also you can go to shatpod.com/support. And there's a Venmo link there. Just put in the notes, diapers. And I'm sure Big D will kick that money right over to me. Adding to the Shat diaper fund.
Or wipes, baby wipes.
Oh, put wipes. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, wipes.
You know, a few months from now, we will be a dad pod. It's just going to be girl.
Pod.
Yeah, fucking girl dad podcast. This is what this podcast is going to be.
I like it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Gene, for planting that seed. Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Next up, we have a voicemail, and it comes from Chris from Georgia calling in about After Hours.
Hey, Big D and Gene. It is Chris calling in from Georgia, kind of northern suburbs of Atlanta. I was calling in regards to this week's episode on After Hours. First off, I just want to say I'm such a huge fan of you guys. It always brings such joy to me to sit here and listen to you guys talk while I'm doing work around the house. I'm a stay-at-home dad, so I'm constantly doing things here, laundry, cleaning, shuffling kids to and from school and everywhere else they got to go. So it's always just so much fun to have you guys there along for the ride. Clearly not when the kids are in the car. But besides that, I wanted to speak on a couple of things I thought about with regards to After Hours. First off, I'm the same age as Gene, so I'm 44, and I remember seeing the box for this in the video store all the time growing up as a kid, and just having kind of like what you guys spoke to, having no clue what the movie could possibly be about based off the cover of the video. It really just gives you no indication whatsoever. If anything, I thought it was going to be like a dumb kind of adult romantic comedy, something similar to like the Woman in Red or something like that. Anyway, so I listened to the first couple of minutes of the episode, and you guys kind of started to hint around at how you felt about the movie, and it intrigued me enough to make me stop and go watch the movie first. With regards to what you guys were saying about, do people listen to the episode first and then watch the movie, or vice versa? In this case, I actually stopped, watched the movie, and then came back to you guys, mainly because of the fact that I wanted to enjoy the movie for all its surprises and twists and turns and whatever was going to happen. I didn't want to have it kind of spoiled for me. So I felt like that was the way to go. And I'm honestly really glad I did. I enjoyed the movie way more than I thought I was going to. It took me a couple of days of kind of watching in pieces here and there. But I felt like that 1 3/4 is pretty darn accurate in terms of like how good it is. But two things I wanted to bring up real quick is that one, the part where she's riding around the Mr. Softy truck with the other people looking for him reminded me so much of The Warriors. I'm sure it wasn't intentional or anything like that, but I just felt like there was a lot of similarity between those two scenes. The other thing I was going to bring up is that if you notice, he doesn't actually get his keys back at the end. He never gets them from the bartender. So I feel like they have it open to where they could easily do a sequel, and I'm wondering if they actually had that in mind. Anyway, my time is running out, so I just wanted to say thanks again and look forward to the next one.
See, the other question we asked, Gene, was whether people like this movie more knowing it was a Scorsese film. I wonder if he had gotten to the point where we talked about that, if he watched it not knowing, maybe didn't catch it in the title card.
I think if I had seen this movie and not known Scorsese for any other work, I'd be like, this guy is a rare talent. I want to see what else he's done. I'm dead serious. It's so good. But did you know that he's only done one sequel in his entire career?
No.
Isn't that crazy? That's so cool, I think. Color Money was
Respectable.
the only time that he did a sequel.
In a world of sequels and franchises today, it's a nice,
Very
to have an
fucking
old school
cool
guy like that.
And that wasn't even a sequel to his own movie, you know? He did a sequel to another movie. We can't even do the first one. I think it's fucking fantastic.
Agreed.
Anyway. Well, thanks, Chris, for your voicemail. Really great to hear from you. Next up, we have a voicemail from Graham Johnson, who's calling in about Eurotrip.
Good evening, Shatsters. It's Graham from Australia. How are you? I'm finding your reviews fantastic to listen to on long-distance driving trips here in Australia, and managed to digest an amazing amount of your reviews. Only issue I've got is I'm a connoisseur of B-grade American high school comedy, and the one thing that's missing that I've never seen reviewed so far is Eurotrip. And I think going forward, this is a must-have. If you've gone through all of the rest of them, like Animal House and whatever, Eurotrip's right up there, and I'd be pretty keen to organise to get you to review that in the future.
So I've never seen Eurotrip.
What?
You know what else I've never seen? Beer Fest.
Well, here's a question for you. Do you know the song, not the band, Scotty Doesn't Know?
I know the song. I get the reference. I have never seen the movie, and I don't know the song in context. I think that scene is hilarious, but I don't know what it's all about. I just think it's Matt Damon is wonderful in it, and the fucking song is great, but I don't know the movie at all.
The lyrics tell you quite a bit, Gene.
Yeah, they do. Now that's
About
2004.
I don't care. Yes, that's a must. One of the best cameos. It's really funny. Yes, that's a must. We would have to do that.
All right, Graham, it sounds like that's a yes. And also, I'm loving all the voicemail and email we're getting from Australia lately. So we had Sky call in. We just recently did Gallipoli. And we have, of course, Steve-O in Australia that's in our Discord. And so I'm loving this connection with Australia, which does have a Superman 2 connection, which the movie will be doing soon. So, yeah, weird connection. There must be some lining up of the polls. But anyway, Graham, sounds like that's a yes from Big D. I'm certainly in because I would love to see the movie. And I know Sarah's a big fan, so that'd be a fun one to watch together. So I don't have to make her watch another Haunted Honeymoon. And speaking of doing movies from 2004, we have a voicemail from Fernando who wants us to know about some movies that we've missed from the 80s and 90s.
Hey, Taku. This is Fernando from California. You guys are exactly what I need in my life. I've been looking for something like you guys' podcast, and somehow, some way, I found you guys, and I've been stuck to it every day. Like yourselves, basically, we would be twins if you guys were Mexican from California and poor. But besides that, we're basically twins. Before you guys go ahead and go to the latest movies or jump up to 2000s and so forth, there's a whole bunch of movies that you guys have yet to touch from the 80s and 90s. Just to name a few, I want to say Born East LA, which I actually emailed and I would like to commission. American History X, Deadly Voyage, Thrashing, there's the Thrash, one or the other. Short Circuit 2, which I personally think is better than Short Circuit 1. Kickboxer, AI, Cool Runnings, Flowers in the Attic. There's a lot. I can name more. I used to be a movie junkie. That's basically all I did. My dad got me used to going to a theater. I can remember him taking me to go watch Three Amigos, taking me to go watch RoboCop, Superman 4, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, all those. He was a big Chuck Norris fan, or he still is. But little by little, they got more, very religious, Joe Witness and so forth. So I didn't get to see no Teenage Ninja Turtles or anything like that growing up. But now I love them. So don't give up on those 80s and 90s. Thank you for being the podcast of my choice. I put on God. I've been what's that word called? It's in English. It's not advertising. But you know what I mean? I've been going ahead and telling everybody about you guys. It's because
An
she's
advocate
great.
or
All
evangelist.
3 of you or 4 of you. Big D. I don't know why, but I picture you being some porn actor by the name of Christian. Google it. That's all I'm going to say, but that's how I picture it. I might be wrong, but the tall white guy, shaved head, and you can go from there. Thanks a lot, guys.
So Fernando, of course, had written in earlier about Born East LA, as you mentioned, but I love the idea that I have a poor Mexican twin somewhere in LA. I think that's fantastic. And Fernando blew my mind with American History X. I didn't realize that was 1999. I didn't realize AI was a 90s movie. That's crazy.
Yeah, the only one in that list that I Flowers in the Attic. No, my sister had the book. I read part of it. That's kind of up there with one of those films like I know it would not be fun to go back and watch.
That was
it's like the mother, like they forced the kids to live up in the attic. The brother and
that
sister.
Was the others.
No, I think it's called Flowers in the Attic. I think it was like
okay. Not the Nicole Kidman movie.
No, what, the one with the ghosts?
Yeah.
The others?
Spoiler alert.
Oh, oops. Yeah, no, not that one. This one was like child abuse.
Oh. Yeah, maybe we'll do American History X. That one sounds good. But Born in East LA for fucking sure.
Hell yes.
I would love to do that movie.
Definitely.
While I still have a mustache, we should do that one.
And one last thing, Fernando, I was prepping for the podcast and I was playing these and Emma was sitting listening. When she heard your voicemail, she went, "That's so nice. It's so nice that people call in and say those things and that you've been able to like enjoy that together." So Emma said, thank you for the voicemail.
Also, Fernando, just so you know, in my jiu-jitsu school, there's a Fernando. And when you wrote in, I thought maybe it was him. And so I started talking to him about it. And then you called him with a voicemail and clearly it was not him. But that conversation got started and he works for the city and drives around a lot. And so now he's listening to podcasts. So you got another Fernando listening. That's pretty awesome. And he's a pretty awesome Fernando. So Fernando, if you're listening, thanks. And finally, we have a voicemail about a fish called Wanda, and it comes from Victoria in Albany.
Hey guys, Victoria from Albany, New York. Love the pod. Not as regular a listener as I would like to, but right now I'm grading and catching up, listening to your Fish Called Wanda episode. I am married to a very blue-collar English guy from Wolverhampton, which you've never heard of unless maybe you watched Peaky Blinders. But I am here to tell you that if you really want to find more of those blue-collar archetypes, you need to go watch Mike Lee. That's like his entire output, basically. High Hopes is my personal favorite. There's probably other directors who do that similar kind of kitchen sink, blue-collar battle of the classes Englishness, if you will, but highly recommend his movies. Cannot recommend them enough. Also, they're from the 80s. I'm not commissioning at the moment, but hey, that could come down the pike. Super appreciate you. You are making my grading life a lot easier as I wrap up here. And thank you.
Victoria, of course, we've heard of Wolverhampton. It's where the Wolverhampton Wanderers are from. One of my favorite logos in all the Premier League, because it looks like a little, I know it's a wolf, but it looks like a little puppy with pointy ears. But anyway, but yeah, as for the idea of the working class, English film, I think Big D and I, in the films that we have done, we've really been exposed to kind of only two types of English, right? They're crime bosses or a criminal element, or they're kind of affluent and a little stodgy. And so, a little bit of access to the everyman. I think the only ones we've had of that were maybe 4 Weddings and a Funeral. Maybe.
No, with Nell and I.
No, those are actors and they're poor. They're very poor.
Oh, I don't know. But looking at the poster for High Hopes, this is right up there. I'm surprised you weren't like gushing, like being like, "Oh, I love this movie." When I was studying abroad, I loved this film. I was expecting that.
No, I'm the London type with my balls all shiny. I wouldn't know about Wolverhampton and the blue collar everyman in the UK.
No, but Victoria, also thank you for grading papers up there in Albany. I was just in your neck of the wood. I was in Poughkeepsie. My mother was having heart surgery, successful. Little shout out to the Vassar Brothers hospital in Poughkeepsie, upstate New York. You go. Stay strong there. Stay strong.
I was part witness to this entire saga in Big D's life, and I just got to say, what a good guy. What a good guy.
God, I'll tell that story one day.
Family. Yeah. Anyway, thank you to everyone who wrote in and called in. Big D, what do we have coming up next week?
So, Gene, we're going to go from a small film that didn't make much money to a huge summer blockbuster. Superman foils the plot of terrorists by hurling their nuclear device into outer space, but the bomb's shockwave frees the Kryptonian villain General Zod and his henchmen Ursa and Nan from their imprisonment. Travels to Earth, they threaten the planet with destruction at the same time that Superman decides to renounce his superpowers in order to live a normal life as Clark Kent with his new love, Lois Lane, commissioned by Christopher L. This came out in 1981, and man, this was a big film, big memories, and I think a lot more people will have seen this film, Gene, than that VHS rip of Haunted Honeymoon.
It's also incredibly easy to find streaming, so check it out before you listen. Well, thank you, Chris, for the upcoming commission. Thank you, Rachel, for commissioning Haunted Honeymoon. Thank you to all our commissioners who make this podcast possible. That concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. You should follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat the Movies. You can email us, host@shatpod.com, or leave us a voice message by using the SpeakPipe feature at shatpod.com. Support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or by commissioning your own movie. Find all information by visiting our website, shatpod.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV. We review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all information on our website, shatpod.com/TV, wherever fine podcasts can be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, and if you stop by Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my porn star co-host, Christian, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us next time for the following movie.
Superman 2. The adventure continues with the 3 villains from Krypton. Each one with the same powers as Superman. Each one dedicated to violence against mankind.
Think of it. 3 supervillains. Or 4 if you count him twice.
The adventure continues in Paris with Lois Lane.
I believe this is your floor.
And the romance continues. The adventure continues in Washington. The world is on the brink of destruction.
Superman, can you hear me?
And Metropolis is in ruins.
Superman, help us! Is there no one on this planet to even challenge me?
Superman!
General, would you care to step outside?
Revenge.
Revenge!
Revenge!
Now we're cooking, huh?
The big one's just as strong as Superman.
If you've only seen the first part, you haven't seen the best part. The adventure continues in Superman 2.